7 men, 7 lives extinguished. Each one met their end in the most unexpected and brutal manner, all in the span of one terrifying year, a year that would forever change the perception of safety on the open road. The highways of Florida, once symbols of freedom and escape, transformed into corridors of fear. These roads, which once promised adventure and new beginnings, now held a sinister secret. Aileen Wuornos, a name whispered in hushed tones, became synonymous with this reign of terror. Her presence was like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over the state. Her victims, unsuspecting travelers, crossed her path with fatal consequences. Each encounter was a deadly game of chance, where the stakes were life and death. The nation watched in horror as the body count rose, each life taken a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. The media frenzy only added to the fear, with every headline painting a picture of a relentless predator on the loose. Law enforcement was in a race against time, piecing together clues and trying to predict her next move. The pressure was immense, as the public demanded answers and justice. When Wuornos was finally apprehended, the trial that followed was one of the most sensational in history. The courtroom was packed, the atmosphere electric with tension and anticipation. Convicted and sentenced to death, Wuornos spent her final days in solitary confinement, a stark contrast to the chaos she had unleashed. Her story serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly safety can be shattered and how the open road can become a path to peril. Born in 1956, Aileen Carol Pittman, later known as Aileen Wuornos, entered a world that seemed destined to chew her up and spit her out. Her childhood, far from the idyllic picture of innocence, was a harsh landscape of neglect and abuse. Abandoned by her mother and raised by her grandparents, Aileen's life was marred by instability and trauma from the very beginning. At the tender age of 4, Aileen's life took a turn that no child should ever have to endure. Her early years were marked by a sense of innocence and wonder, but that was soon replaced by a haunting reality. Aileen's already fragile world shattered. The comfort of her home was replaced by an environment filled with fear and uncertainty. The broken doll on the floor symbolized the broken pieces of her childhood. Her grandfather, a man she should have been able to trust, became her tormentor. The shadowy figure that loomed over her was not just a physical presence, but a constant reminder of her vulnerability and helplessness. Allegations of sexual abuse cast a dark shadow over her childhood, leaving her in a state of perpetual fear. The innocence of her youth was stolen, replaced by a haunting silence that spoke volumes of her pain. The scars left by these traumatic experiences ran far deeper than any physical wound. Her tear-streaked face and blank stare were a testament to the emotional and psychological turmoil she endured. By the age of 14, she was adrift in the foster care system, a place meant to offer refuge, but often felt like another form of abandonment. Each new home brought with it a new set of challenges and uncertainties. Shuffled from one home to another, Aileen never found the stability she so desperately needed. Each move was a reminder of her transient existence, a life in constant motion with no place to truly call home. Never finding a place to truly belong, Aileen's journey through the foster care system was one of isolation and longing. The sparse rooms and lonely playgrounds were a stark contrast to the warmth and security she yearned for. Her story is a poignant reminder of the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. Aileen's teenage years offered no respite from the hardships she had come to expect. Pregnant at 14, she was ostracized by her community, her cries for help drowned out by judgment and scorn. The streets, with their harsh realities and bleak prospects, became her refuge. She turned to sex work to survive, selling her body to feed herself, her spirit slowly eroding with each passing day. Section 5. The first victim, a line crossed, 1989, a year that would forever alter the course of Aileen Wuornos' life. It was a time of turmoil and transformation, a period marked by a series of events that would lead her down a path of no return. The year began like any other, but for Aileen it quickly spiraled into a nightmare. Aileen Wuornos, a woman with a troubled past and a tumultuous present, found herself entangled in a web of violence and despair. Her life had been a series of unfortunate events, each one pushing her closer to the edge. She had endured a childhood filled with abuse and neglect, and as an adult, she struggled to find stability and peace. Her encounters with men were often fraught with danger and exploitation, and it was in this context that she met Richard Mallory. Richard Mallory, a middle-aged man with a checkered past, became her first victim. Their meeting was not one of chance, but of circumstance. Aileen, working as a prostitute, crossed paths with Mallory, and their interaction would set off a chain of events that would end in tragedy. Mallory, a man with his own demons, was not an innocent bystander. He had a history of violence and was known to be volatile. On that fateful night, their lives collided in a way that would leave a lasting impact on both of them. Aileen claimed self-defense, alleging that Mallory had raped and brutalized her. She described a harrowing ordeal, one that left her with no choice but to fight back. In her account, Mallory was a predator and she was his prey. The courtroom became a battleground where her story was dissected and scrutinized. The prosecution painted her as a cold-blooded killer, while the defense argued that she was a victim of circumstance driven to violence by a desperate need to protect herself. She maintained that her actions were a desperate act of survival, a fight to protect herself from a predator. Her eyes, filled with tears, told a story of pain and fear. She clutched her arms as if trying to shield herself from the memories of that night. The jury was left to decide whether her actions were justified or if she had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Whether her claims held any truth or were a fabrication born of desperation and a fractured psyche remains a subject of debate. The shadowy figure of Aileen Wuornos looms large in the annals of criminal history, a complex and tragic character whose life and actions continue to provoke discussion and analysis. Her journal, filled with frantic handwriting, offers glimpses into a troubled mind, a mind that was perhaps pushed to the brink by a lifetime of suffering. The story of Aileen Wuornos is not just one of crime, but of a human being caught in the throes of a life that seemed determined to break her. One by one, the bodies of Aileen's victims surfaced, each discovery sending shockwaves through the nation. The authorities, faced with mounting pressure to apprehend the elusive killer, zeroed in on Aileen, her history of violence and instability making her a prime suspect. In 1992, after a highly publicized trial, Aileen Wuornos was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death. For 10 long years, Aileen Wuornos sat on death row, her fate hanging in the balance. She became a cause célèbre, her case igniting fierce debates about capital punishment, mental illness, and the very nature of justice. On October 9, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection. Her final words, a chilling mix of defiance and delusion. Aileen Wuornos' life and crimes continue to fascinate and horrify in equal measure. Was she a cold-blooded killer who preyed on innocent men, or was she a deeply disturbed woman driven to desperate acts by a lifetime of abuse and neglect? The truth, like so much else in Aileen's story, remains elusive, shrouded in layers of pain, anger, and a profound sense of tragedy. Aileen Wuornos' story, though extreme in its violence, serves as a chilling reminder of the cracks that exist in our society. She is a symbol of the devastating consequences of childhood trauma, societal indifference, and the cyclical nature of abuse. Her life, marred by hardship and punctuated by violence, forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our own humanity and the systems we have created.